In my world, for every one person that makes a choice, there's 10 that don't, right? And then they come to me with all their problems, but they don't actually want to change their situation.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Dawson. Welcome back to another episode of the Dawson Show, where I interview business owners that we've been working with so that you can hear real stories from real people with real impact. There's a lot of people that talk about what they've done or what they can do or what you should be doing, but there aren't a lot of people that share the results of what they actually do. So one thing for sure is, on the Dawson Show, I'll never introduce or talk about something that I can't prove to you through real data, real experiences, and real testimonials that have happened. And so I'm very excited to introduce a guest today, JC. I'm going to have JC introduce yourself, what you guys do, and tell everybody. And that's your camera there.
Hi everyone, I'm JC Silva, and me and my husband, we own aquatic pools and spas, and his name is Thiago Silva, and we do swimming pool construction.
And where are you guys from?
Originally, Brazil.
And where do you live now?
Charleston, South Carolina.
Charleston, South Carolina. It is a beautiful city.
It is.
When I was 19, I had the privilege of having that as part of my territory, so I got to roll through there a few times. Loved it.
It's time for you to come back.
Yes, exactly. I agree. Well, listeners and watchers that are on the Dawson Show here, this is going to be a great interview because I think it really represents at the heart of what we believe in at Cardinal Ventures, what I believe in as a leader, and that is anybody that chooses to create change and impact in their lives, they have the power to do it. And this is such a great example, and I'm very proud of you guys, and you know that. So let's go back to when we first met. Was it 2 years ago? It was almost this time 2 years ago, I think.
Yes,
it was before COVID.
Before COVID, almost 3 years ago, because
No, I think it was January. It was January. Wasn't it January or February of 20? I can't remember now.
I can't
Is
remember.
that right?
January 20.
Yeah, it was January 2020.
Wow.
And you guys came to Florida.
Yes.
And we did our 10X 360 event.
360.
And what happened at that 10X? I mean, just like in 2 days, what did you realize in 2 days at that 10X 360?
The first feeling, we were overwhelmed.
Yep.
Because, we knew nothing about how to actually run a business. And then we are bombarded with all this information, and you actually don't know how to implement them. And then you were offering the platform.
Yeah, so we'll get to that in a second. But you all of a sudden you're sitting there and you go through 2 days, because a lot of people ask me like, what do you guys do in 2 days? I mean, especially to justify the price point we're at, right? Because it's a big price. You guys made a huge investment, probably the biggest investment you've ever made in your business for a single thing outside of the equipment and stuff. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so you're there, and in the 2 days, it's just epiphany after epiphany. You're just like, oh my gosh, we didn't know this. Oh my gosh, we didn't think about that. Oh my gosh, we don't know how to do that. Oh my gosh, we're not doing that, right? Yeah. And so at the end of the 2 days, but you also realize what you're doing really well. And at the end of the 2 days, you realize there was like, for every one thing you were doing well, there's probably like 10 things you didn't even know you should be doing.
Yes.
And you guys were overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I remember Natalie coming back and talking to me. I'll never forget this. She came back. She goes, can you come up and help me? Because they're getting emotional and we need to talk to them. And so I went up and I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, my husband had the feeling that he was stuck, that he had no place to move on with the business. You know, when you hit a certain lead and then you cannot go on, that's where he was. And then we found you guys, and then you gave everything to us through the 10X 360. And at that time, we only had $150,000 in the bank account.
And how big was the business?
I guess.
I think it was like 1.8 or 2 million or something.
1
million?
Yeah. 1.2.
So this is 2 years, just for the listeners to understand, this is 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago. I think this is really important because the theme that you're going to hear from me is pulling time forward. pulling time, pulling the joy of life forward, pulling money forward, pulling success forward, because this is the theme is how do you do that? Because I get asked all the time, because for what people spend 10 or 20 years trying to find a little ounce of freedom in their life, and they don't realize it's 1 or 2 years away. But most people aren't really committed to making that happen. And that was what you guys were frustrated with, is that you're sitting there at $1 million, you have $100,000 to your name basically in the business. You're overwhelmed. You just had a baby, right?
Yeah, he was 5 months.
And you were trying to manage the baby, run the business, and your husband felt like he was a racehorse that was trapped. He wanted to go, but he didn't know where to go and how to go, and you didn't know how to keep him under control.
Yes.
So that little dynamic was happening at the end of that 2 days, and you guys were full of emotion. You both were crying, and I walked up with you guys. And it was amazing because we just all put our hands around each other. Yeah. I get emotional thinking about it.
Yeah, and you should.
we
because you transformed our lives.
We put our hands around each other, and I just said, guys, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, what do we want to do? Forget what we're doing. Forget how it is or isn't working. Forget the fear for a moment. Like, what do we want to do together?
I was really fearful.
You were scared. Yeah.
Yes, it was everything that we had that we needed to put it on the table and trust a guy that we
didn't know.
Met.
Yeah.
But because you got emotional.
Yeah. Like I am right now. I'm a crybaby. They say I'm a crybaby. You know why? I'm just gonna tell everybody watching or listening to the B. Dawson Show why I get emotional. Because I know what it feels like when you're scared. And you don't want to fail. And when I see other people willing to make that commitment and they do it, it's so gratifying that it makes me emotional, because I have so many people that are stuck right now that are unwilling to make that change, and it's so frustrating. So in my world, for every one person that makes a choice, there's 10 that don't, right? And then they come to me with all their problems, but they don't actually want to change their situation.
Yeah, and for me in specific, it was so challengeful because my husband, he's all committed, all about changes. But I mean, for me, changes is really hard. I don't want to change. And looking back at me 2 years ago and where I am right now, it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. So listen, I just want to recap. So if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, what at the end of the day, what are we talking about? So 2 years ago, you're sitting there with $1 million business, new baby, overwhelmed, and only with $100,000 in the bank account. And you guys, the thing I loved at that, when I think back and I get emotional, I think of the commitment, the willingness to trust me. I think that's what makes me emotional. And I told you guys, we're going to do it together. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we saw that you had the heart, and we could believe in your words, the words that you were saying. It was really truthful, and it is. So we committed with you to do the platform.
You took all the money that you guys had, and you were willing to risk it on a relationship with us. And so then if you're listening to the show, you're like, okay, so that was gutsy, right? Especially someone you barely knew. So when you go back, that was 2 years ago exactly. So that was in 2000. Then COVID hit.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, you're like 2 months into the program, and you guys are like, COVID hits, the world's coming to us, grinding halt, and we all hunkered down together.
Yeah, so it was good for us knowing that we had you guys to back us out if we needed anything. And I mean, I remember that once we had a meeting and everybody was in this meeting. You, Natalie, people from finance, Heather, everybody. And then you were like asking us, are you guys okay? Do you need anything? How much cash do you have? And then we just kept talking. And I mean, it was like a relief knowing that you were actually caring, that you were like there for us.
I think I was on vacation when I called you. I was somewhere, because I remember I was like, I have to be on that call. And so we talked about what was going on in the business, what the immediacy is. That was right when I thought, I need to put the emergency business response book out, because I was having all these conversations with people that trusted me, and this devastation happened, and it's like, I keep having the same conversation. So I'm like, I'll put it in a book, and then we'll talk about what's in the book, right? And so now all of a sudden we go from being being a state of emergency, right? Because all the stuff that was happening, not knowing if we were going to generate revenues, people were canceling, people were getting sick, everybody in the world might die. Like, we didn't know what was happening. And so that was what, March, April.
And it actually helped us.
Yeah, so this is the interesting part. Because we fortified, that's called fortifying, right? When you're in a crisis or an emergency, instead of spiraling in the crisis or emergency, what you need to do is you need to fortify your assets. And that's what people don't understand. They don't technically understand how to do that, and they don't emotionally do that. So they spend all their time overwhelming versus fortifying. And so we fortified. And then we're like, what good indicators are still happening in the business? And we started tracking that with you guys. We started finding things that we could lean into. So now let's tell everybody. So 2021, so you come in with $100,000 in the bank account, doing $1 million of revenue, overwhelmed, new baby, scared shitless. That's where we started.
Yes.
So in 2020, well, despite all that fear, all that anxiety, only having $100,000, COVID hitting us, and doing $1 million a year in revenue, and only having $100,000 to your name, and then making the decision to move forward in 2020. What did we end the year in 2020 in revenue?
Almost 8.
8 million. Is there a bell to ring? How come we don't have a 10X bell in here? Where is there not a Grant Cardone, get it done, on our desk? We'll have to get one of those at another point in time. So 8 million. Everybody, I want you to hear this. COVID hits, $1 million business, fear, anxiety, stress, only $100,000, 8 million in revenue. And then in the process, because we were fortifying, we started looking at other constraints in the business, and all of a sudden there was a constraint with being able to get third parties to come out and keep up with your guys' jobs. And one of the things that was noticed is the cost for you guys to get concrete and stuff to your job site.
Yes.
And your husband had an idea, and what was that idea?
One of those crazy ideas.
Yeah, she's like, put the brakes on. This was awesome. We were all on the call. Put the brakes on. He's like, I really want to do something. I think I have an opportunity.
And we started our gunite side. It's I don't know that everybody knows, but I mean, our pools, they are concrete, but then it's another form. It's called gunite. So we open our gunite company.
So they opened a new company for the company.
Yes.
And bought like concrete trucks.
Yes.
Because you couldn't get your third-party people to help you, your other subcontractors. So all of a sudden now we took that to solve your problem, and then we turned it into another business.
Another business.
So you make money on every competitor in town that does a pool.
Yeah. But right now we're only doing ours.
I know, but all of a sudden now you got, so this is what I call connected businesses, right? And you guys, so we started doing that strategy, you incorporated it, then you got busier and busier, and then we found some unique things you were doing that you were able to take to the marketplace. And a lot of business owners miss those unique things if they're not fortifying, they're not paying attention to it. So now fast forward 1 year later. So 2020, we go from $1 million to 8. What did you guys do in 2021?
23 millions, 3 more gunite trucks. They're en route from Houston to us.
Okay, I just want everybody to hear this. This is so amazing. So to recap, because people miss details. 1 million scared to death, overwhelmed, and only having $100,000. To 8 million in 12 months, and buying trucks and equipment that could knock their competitors out of the box and start another new business. To the next year, $23 million, buying and creating the resources to buy more things. And when we set the budget for 2022, based on the business that's in hand, the opportunities, and the new equipment, what's the 2022 annual planning that we did with you guys?
You guys come up with 3, right? Like the low, the medium, and the high. The high. Our low is 32.
32 million is the low.
Yeah. And
the high.
42.
42 million. So look, we have a specific algorithm we use when we plan for businesses to make sure they maintain their profitability, to make sure their comp structures are in alignment with the growth of the business so they're not changing it on their employees, to make sure the owner's earnings and the forward investment opportunities and the cash flows there based on the science of building and scaling and growing a business. So we try to take the emotion out of it and have it be very practical. So all of a sudden we go from $1 million business in start of 2020 to an $8 million business in 2020, a $23 million business in 2021, and call it a $45 million business in 2022. Because that's what I believe you guys will do. You'll overachieve because you got so much momentum. Now talk a little bit about how much, because when we were at the Grant Cardone Real Estate Summit,
Yes.
we were all hugging it out because look, when you go to war with business owners and you conquer, you win those battles. You're no longer like clients, you're family. Like we're all family here, and so you guys made a bold move. So I want to frame this. So 2 years ago, you decided to invest your last $100,000 with me, and you took your business from $1 million 2 years later to $23 million, and then for the first time, you just made another big investment.
Yeah.
And what was that investment?
$1 million.
$1 million into Cardone Capital.
Yeah.
Because now you're doing exactly what we teach. You're taking active income. You're taking the active income and you're starting to invest it in things that will give you passive income. Because now we're going into wealth creation.
Yeah. And it's crazy because we're such in a day by day hustle, and I don't even pay attention to what is actually happening. And now that we are talking about, I'm like, what happened? In like 2 years?
2 years. So how much? So think about it. When you were making $1 million in revenue 2 years ago, how much do you think you guys are paying yourself a year? Nothing. So when you think about it now, you're able to just stroke a check for $1 million to go into a third-party investment. That means and what do you guys make now, do you think? $2-3 million a year?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason I bring this up is because you spent your whole life building a business. And now all of a sudden you're pulling 10, 20, 30 years of earnings forward into a year.
Yes.
And you're only getting bigger. How does that feel?
Feels good. Because now I have 2 boys and I know they are set up for success.
How amazing is that? I love this story because you guys are such incredible people. I wish people could put themselves in a position that you were 2 years ago where you guys were so scared. You were crying. You're $1 million business with $100,000. For most people, they would never separate from that money. They would never make that choice.
If it was only me, I think that I wouldn't.
Yep.
But because of my husband, I think that's why we did it. And he never proves me wrong. and now we're going to have a business at 35 to 45 million. 35 to 45 times where you were 2 years ago. Yes.
And that's just, we're still just starting. Like, I feel like it's a $100 million business. In another 2 or 3 years, easy, it's a $100 million business.
We're so excited for 2022. The majority of our hires, our people were hired last year. So now they kind of know what to do. And we are 20 people now.
Oh my goodness.
So
you went from you and your husband thinking you can't even control him to now having 20 employees. And what's it like to have a team? Because you're in our strategic business unit. You're in all of our programs. And you guys have been with us now. We've been doing this. We've been neck to neck for 2 years now, grinding this out. What does it feel like for you as a business owner to have that resource of that whole team behind you, helping you professionalize the success of your business?
I don't even know how to put it in words, it's like a call away from solving a problem that for me it's like a big problem, but because you guys already have all these years of experience, it's like nothing. And knowing that I have someone actually that I can call and it's there to help me, it's like I have no words for that.
And so so for people listening or watching, our system is set up that across all the different functions, marketing, operations, finance, people, all that stuff, strategy, leadership, that when you're in the scaling process and you start butting up against things that maybe you're afraid won't work, or you're not certain how to make a decision, or you don't know how to have a conversation with somebody, or you don't know how to like talk to a vendor or negotiate a deal, or you just all the implications of business, you just pick up the phone and call your team and they go, okay, what does your plan say we're going to do? What are we actually doing? What modifications do we need to make? Okay, and then here's how we have the conversations, and we structure it, we put it in a written format, and then we execute as a team together. And sometimes, like if it's a big enough deal, I'll jump in and have those conversations, or the team will jump in and have them. So having that resource is what's propelled you guys and allowed you to have the freedom to go from 1 million to 22 million to 40 million. And do you think you could have done that without that?
No.
What do you think your life would look like right now if we never met?
If we never met, I still think that we had grown a little bit, but not to the scale that we are right now.
Yeah,
Because,
I believe that. I mean, you guys are such a powerful couple. I believe that you guys would have been unbelievably successful. The only question is how long would it take you to get there?
Long time.
Yeah.
Time, especially because me and him were not aligned.
That's another thing we work on, isn't it?
And for that call, you were on vacation in Cabo.
That was the one I was on vacation.
In Cabo.
So people listening to this understand, like we specialize in working with partners, right? It could be business partners, it could be spouses, it could be father, son, mother, daughter, brother, sister. It doesn't matter. But that dynamic is an area that I've spent 30 years of my life in managing, turning around businesses, and working with families in business. And so when you guys, I want to tell you that when you're running into resistance, all of you listening and watching, when you're running into resistance in your business or at home, it's because you're out of alignment somewhere. And really, it's like a wobbly wheel. The faster you go, the higher probability of wrecking out, crashing. So when you start to feel the wobble, there needs to be a process where you detach from what's going on emotionally and you attach to the fortification of where you want to go. And we went through that process, and it wasn't a very lengthy process. And what happened in that for you personally?
Personally, I mean, we lost so much time fighting my husband, because he was always a risk taker, and I was always someone that wanted to retain everything, and concerned and scared of what the next day would bring. And I mean, you guys changed my whole belief lead. So it's
So instead of resisting, putting your foot on the brake while he's hitting the accelerator, Grant Cardone talks a lot, and Elena talk about this. You both were like, okay, let's ease into the accelerator.
Yes.
But then all of a sudden, you don't feel there's all this stress and all this anxiety, but then you blink and you wake up and you go from 1 million to 22 million. And you're like, wow, that was fast. But it didn't feel, you didn't have the stress of it.
No.
So now what's your confidence that you can go to 40 or 50 million to 100 million?
100%.
100%. So you're no longer afraid of the other side. And I think most business owners, I just want to give the encouragement to people listening and watching the show, that so many people give up before they get that breakthrough because they're listening to the wrong people. And it is so easy to listen to your friends, your family, consultants, lawyers, advisors, and every one of them is always going to tell you to back off. Because if they're not where you want to be, and they're not an example of what you want to become or succeed at, they don't really, unconsciously, they don't want to see you do it, because then they have to acknowledge and look in the mirror that they were unwilling to do what you did. So what they'd rather do is bring you back to mediocrity than empower and support you and try to help you, which they wouldn't have the skill set to do something that you want to do.
Yeah, and they will tell you that you can do by yourself, which you can't. You need people around you. You need a team where it's actually going to help you to take you where you need to be.
And you guys have worked, you're here right now at the People Essentials.
People Essentials.
And what are you learning at the People Essentials? What kinds of things are you here to learn?
That people is important. You cannot do anything without people. You're only going to achieve your goal if you have the right team in place.
And learning how to align that team with the big growth and doing it right so you don't lose people because you did it wrong.
Yes.
That's why you're here. I just, I want to tell you how I have so much respect for you guys. You know that. I mean, my listeners and watchers, I want them to know, like, these people, if I could just pick like the exact type of person I want to work with for the rest of my life and have millions of them in my life, it's you guys.
Oh, thank you.
And you're so special. What a phenomenal story. I'm so proud of you guys, because I know, it is. It's one thing, I always say this, it's one thing to do what we do. But if we can't connect with people who are willing to do what you did, none of it matters.
And I don't think that I ever said thank you. And I thank God for putting you in our lives.
Ah, so sweet. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching and listening to another episode of the B. Dawson Show, where we're going to always feature business owners who are willing to put their profits and loss statements in front of you in order to show you and prove to you it can be done. No hype, no BS, no storytelling that can't be supported with facts, figures, and details and data. Because we believe that for business owners or individuals that want to have a business, that there is a bigger, better, faster way to succeed, but you got to be listening to the right people and surround yourself with knowledge and wisdom from people who want to deliver it to you in a way that you can hear it, apply it, and succeed with it. So thank you for watching and listening to another episode of the B. Dawson Show.